Alrighty, folks. So this is actually going to be kind of a different video from pretty much all the videos that I have created so far. And that is because I'm going to essentially be showing you guys how I would put together a deal, right? So one of the really, really common questions that you're going to get from, I mean, practically every single bank is after they ask you which group you're interested in, you're going to answer that I'm interested in, um, let's say, industrials, right? Then they're going to ask you for a trend in industrials, right? I mean, first they're going to ask you why you're interested in industrials. Then they're gonna ask you a trend in industrials, and then from there they're going to say, oh, what's a deal that you're following in the industrial space, right? And I feel like first off, I mean, you have to have a deal prepped. And it's not something that you can kind of wing, as you're going to see. It's a bit extensive, but at the same time, I feel like people pour way too much time into this, right? So I want to essentially show you guys that hopefully it should not take too long, and especially if you are really efficient with your use with ChatGPT or whichever other like LLM that you want to use. Assuming that you're double checking whatever work it's doing, you can actually get this done relatively quickly, right? So the example was around like industrials, right? So the way that I would start is I would ask ChatGPT biggest M&A deals in industrials, and let's say 2025, right? Now it's searching the web, it's going to tell us blah 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 blah. Okay, the first one, Union Pacific and Norfolk Southern, right? So what we're going to do, you do need Capital One for this, right? Is we're going to search up how do you spell it again? Union Pacific. This one looks right, right? And you got all of this information. What you're going to do is go to M&A and private placements, and you're going to look for Norfolk here. See, we see Norfolk. So you're going to click on the announced date, and here you got all the information about uh, the um, the transaction, right? The whole point of this, I mean, I'm really oversimplifying this because I want you guys to be able to do this really quickly. Like I didn't really read anything about this, right? All I know that ChatGPT told me it's a really big transaction. It's something to do with railroads, right? And now we go over here. Okay, it was announced relatively recently. This looks like relatively good, right? And then look, like all of this information here is populated, right? Which is a good thing, which means that like this is we're probably in the clear here, right? So what I do, quite literally, I copy paste Command C, go to here, let's do a new chat, and I'm going to tell ChatGPT, please prepare me a deal sheet on the Union Pacific um, and Norfolk deal only using the information I provide you. Please have a section on each of the following. Um, a comprehensive deal description, financials on both the buyer and seller, multiples on the transaction, uh, the rationale for both the buyer and seller, the risks associated with the transaction, and how the stock price reacted. Here is the data. and I just copy pasted everything from Capital One. Capital One. What am I talking about? Capital IQ. Now it's thinking. In the meantime, while it's thinking, if you go to transaction quick comps, this is going to tell you if there's any similar transactions, right? So this is something to keep in mind, right? And we're going to add this as part of our deal sheet as well. So actually, let me just copy paste this as well. Okay. Please include the following transactions as comparable transactions. Okay. Hello. Are you broken? It's taking a sec. Okay. So now you're asking for a Word doc, right? And basically, once you get the Word doc, right? Let's let it wait and give us a Word doc. At that point in time, we actually are pretty close to done, right? Now, once you get the Word doc, you want to essentially go through that and verify the information with what you're seeing here, but you can kind of split screen that and actually go through that relatively quickly, right? And when you do that, you're going to end up reading this synopsis, right? You're going to end up looking at these multiples. You're going to end up looking at like pretty much everything. So you're actually able to while you're verifying that, you end up kind of um like completing like a lot of the work associated with it. Okay, why are you stuck? Sorry, apologize. So let me save that in here and open that up, and then you folks will kind of be able to see. My computer's a little slow because I bet I'm running like a million things, but yeah, here we go, right? We get a transaction overview. We can run through this and make sure it's right. All of these numbers are typically right. I mean, it pulls it pretty well, right? So get an understanding here. Now, for the strategic rationale, now this is really what they're going to ask you about, right? And that's the that's where like 95% of your time will be spent, is explaining it, right? So they're going to ask you, okay, walk us through a deal in the industry. You're going to say that, oh, a deal that really was interesting to me was the Union Pacific acquisition of Norfolk. It was a huge transaction, around $85 billion. Now, I don't know this transaction because I literally just did it live for you guys. So I don't actually know any of these numbers, right? But I remember seeing that it was $85 billion. And then you're going to tell them, oh, it was like part stock, it was part cash. And the reasoning for that was because they wanted Norfolk to have like some upside in the deal, whatever the case was, right? And then you're going to walk through maybe like a high level of the financials, and then you're going to spend most of the time on like the rationale, right? So you're going to say the main rationale for Union Pacific was kind of to create this coast to coast rail network, right? So combining like the western side with the eastern side, and obviously that had a lot of like operational efficiencies and obviously able to capture a ton of synergies there, right? When it came to like the rationale for Norfolk, um, it's kind of just like an immediate premium to like an unaffected share price. So also just having a decent part of a larger pie and just being able to scale up is something that was incredibly valuable to them. right? And like I don't know anything about this deal. I literally just created this deal, but I'm like reading off of this and like kind of like going through it, right? And then the key risks, right? This was a huge thing, right? So okay, you could talk about like this Surface Transportation Board, whatever that is. Obviously, there's going to be antitrust issues because it's a huge deal, right? And then you could talk more about like the stock price reaction that it has here. If this isn't enough, sometimes it doesn't populate this enough. Well, then you can kind of search this up as well and kind of input some of this data yourself. And then if they ask you about comparable companies, you can be like, oh, well, there's nothing quite to this scale, but there was a comparable transaction, specifically a Canadian Pacific purchasing Kansas City South. And this was in 2021, but this was kind of the closest that I was able to find. And it was a pretty large transaction as well, around 32 billion dollars, and it traded at 11.2 times enterprise value to revenue, blah 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 blah. And this deal traded at less, right? Well, why did it trade less, right? You can kind of spin a story around that, right? So I would say, I mean, I have seen people pour genuinely like 20, 30 hours into one of these deals. I always did it just like this, right? Obviously, a little bit more extensive, making sure that this information was correct, right? But I mean, this is the first time that I'm seeing this information, and I'm able to walk you guys through this deal somewhat, right? And if they have specific questions, you can kind of take it by the ear. And also, if your technicals are actually really sound, a lot of the questions that they're going to ask you, whether you actually know about this deal or not, you're actually going to be able to answer them pretty well, right? So really focus on the technicals. I would still kind of work through like prepping a couple of these deals and being a little bit more familiar with it. I would also just give a quick Google search around the deals, see if you're able to find any like headlines or any like big news around it. But yeah, I would say at a very high level, seeing that we were able to kind of finish the prep for this deal, I think in like less than 10 minutes, just kind of goes to show you that like you don't have to spend a ton of time on prepping for these deals. So hopefully that's been helpful. But yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next video then.